What's up, Know Your Books family? We're back again with another review, and this time we're going to be talking about a highly anticipated review. You guys chose this review, and it's called Yuval Harari's 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. Can this book even match up against these two giants, Sapiens and Homo Deus? Because Deus and Sapiens are bestsellers. They are already, in my book at least, very incredibly written books. On a very high level, high quality. A lot of people love them. I'm going to tell you all about this book, but before we do that, if you're an entrepreneur, starting entrepreneur, a blogger, vlogger, or just getting into the corporate world, or you're just a student of the game, we bring materials and books that make you better than you already are. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. And if you are an avid Instagrammer, make sure to follow us at Know Your Books. So without further ado, let's get into this knowledge. So Harari starts off explaining what this book is all about. And it basically completes off the series, his book series, because he started with Sapiens, which is, of course, where he talks about the past and the history of how Sapiens or Homo sapiens actually came to be, all right, and how basically our structures, our social structures, economics, politics, beliefs actually evolved over the years, which was an extremely beautifully written book. I loved it, especially because I love history, but I just love Harari's storytelling in that book as well. Okay, and then it went into Homo Deus, or Deus, talking about how we can stop the aging process, and maybe later on we'll be able to live beyond 200 or 250. And those particular aspects of that book basically fascinated me when he also started talking about AI and etc. Okay, so we have the past, which is the Sapiens book, we have the future, which is the Deus book, and then we have the 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, which is the present, where he goes over controversial topics such as technological disruption, such as AI, or the effect of AI on our future as a human species. But he also goes over politics, Donald Trump, immigration, religion, and all these controversial topics that a lot of people actually in our current climate have a real hard time talking about. But the book is divided into 5 parts, and we're going to go over those 5 parts. I can't go over every single one of them because the book is extremely broad, and there are so many topics discussed in the book. It's going to be quite hard to go over it all, but what we're going to do, we're going to discuss a little bit about each part and what each part actually brings forth. So the first part of the book is part 1, which is the technological challenge. And the technological challenge basically dives deep into the topics of AI and machine learning and the effect on technological advancement on our future and how our current systems, our current political systems can deal with this technological advancement. So he goes over extremely controversial topics such as Donald Trump's America or Putin's Russia, and how these systems might not even be able to keep up with the technological disruptions that are going to be here in the future. Part 2 of the book goes into the political challenge. Topics such as nationalism, religion, our sense of identity and community. Also the touchy subject of immigration. And you can see that in this part of the book, Yuval Noah Harari really tries to stay objective with his views and tries to tackle it from different angles, especially since he's from Israel himself and he's a secular Jew. He basically also tries to say that, his country also has its flaws, and his culture also has their flaws, and he really tries to make sure in the book that he doesn't only talk about the bad sides of other people but also about his own. Part 3 is called Despair and Hope. Part 3, Despair and Hope, goes over the topics of terrorism and the exaggeration of this threat. All right, so Yuval basically expresses that this threat of terrorism is not really that pervasive, and he doesn't really see it as a major one. And what he really sees as real threats in our society are things such as the threat of nuclear war, global warming, the advancement of our technologies, the rapid advancement of our technologies and its effect on the job market and our relevancy as sapiens living on this particular planet. Because he keeps saying that there's a chance that, that there will be there, and he keeps saying that there might be a chance that we might end up with an extremely vast, useless class. People who really have no skills to compete in this particular society. Harari also continuously emphasizes differences that we have with each other in regards to religion or our ideas of our identity. can be reconciled by the threats that are basically beyond just a single civil culture, you know? And I think that basically connects us all. Things such as global warming or the advancement of technology and its effect on everybody's livelihood can really connect us to come together, cooperate on a global level. And part 4 goes into truth. And I think this is one of the most mind-bending chapters in the book. Possibly the most well written as well. And part 4 basically goes into how truth is overrated. People emphasizing to be truthful and etc. It's actually pretty funny because for him, especially because he broke it down in Sapiens, is that all the stories that basically made us rise to our prominence and into power are based on fiction. The belief in a certain piece of paper having its value, like the dollar or the euro. And this is a fictional or an illusional story that basically a lot of people believe in. People gravitates toward fictional stories a lot better than actual facts and figures, because what he says is a lot of people are into groupthink and not really into like rational decision making and more on emotional decision making and what your neighbor does. And part 5 of this book is called Resilience. Will we have to teach people different skills? What type of skills are people going to need in 2050? You know, the people that are in education right now that are maybe 18, in 20 years, they're going to be 38. They're going to be the leaders of our society. What do we have to teach them to make sure that they can cope with all of the significant changes that are going to come up? Because everything is just going to change even faster. How will we cope with the advancement of AI and machine learning? And what will we do when they actually basically take over our decision making? But Yuval actually doesn't answer these questions, and you know, I think nobody can. So basically that is the book, and the 21 lessons is basically spread out over these 5 parts. I'm not gonna go into those because I think you really should read the book if you want to know more about those. I mean, let's get into some of the views of Harari and my opinion on it. And I think that his opinions on the many topics such as AI, global warming, terrorism, nationalism, religion, politics, economics, and more it was a very thorough and objective view that he had. You know, he tried to put it forward as objectively as possible. And you know, sometimes I found myself quite lost in his thought process, but just in the stories in general, I was lost because I felt like the topics were so broad, there was no coherency in it. And I really understand why though, because at the end of the day, our world is not coherent. He has something very interesting what he says in his book. The preceding chapter surveyed some of the most important problems and development of the present era, from overhyped threat of terrorism to the underappreciated threat of technology disruption. If you're left with the nagging feeling that this is too much and that you cannot process it all, you're absolutely right. No person can. And I think basically this encompasses why this book feels so incoherent. He was so honest, and that he really questioned our very fabric of society and when where we're going, how we're thinking. And I think that's what made me continue reading the book. We're going to objectively look at this book. We're not going to compare it with those other 2. I'm not going to put that into the equation. Usually we just give the grade out, but this time I'm going to have sort of a grading system so we make sure that, you know, it's pretty much fair. So, and the grading system goes as follows. We're going to be grading for writing. We're going to be grading for writing, so how it is written, how well it is written, storytelling, the way of the flow of the stories, practicality and credibility. Practicality being, can we get some practical information from this? And of course, credibility, how objective are the views in this book, and how well argued are his points. So as for the writing, I would definitely give it an 8 out of 10. It's extremely well written. Of course, Yuval Noah Harari has proved himself clearly in his previous books as well that he's extremely good at writing. Okay, and when it comes to the storytelling, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. Yuval's strength in his books is his storytelling, the way he basically breaks down very complex subjects in small stories that are easily understandable for the normal reader. Practicality for me is probably one of the most important things, and I have to say that this is a pretty low grade for me. It's 6 out of 10, especially because the topics are so broad. The reason I gave a 6 out of 10 in practicality because the topics are so divergent that I think for the normal reader, they'll look at the book and be like, when they come out of it, they're like, what did I really learn? Probably need more time to digest the book. But for now, like, I don't think the practicality is that high, so 6 out of 10. Let's go into the credibility. When we go into the credibility, I think this is a 9 out of 10, because Yuval Noah Harari very thoroughly backs up his points. He attacks it from different angles, historical angles, cultural angles, economical angles, political angles. So I think he very thoroughly backs up his points that he makes when he talks about how AI can affect us, and also what we can do about it and what you should know going forward into the 21st century. So putting all this together, writing 8 out of 10, storytelling 10 out of 10, practicality 6 out of 10, and credibility is 9 out of 10. If I had to grade this book, I would give this book an 8 out of 10. An incredible book, packed with history, with possible futures, honesty, incredible, argumentation, information that can be used to make the world a better place. And, I think that's why I would recommend this book to anyone who's listening to this video. Even though some of the topics are so divergent, I think it's important that you read this book, because some of the points that he makes in this book can really bring us closer together, and also warn us what the possibilities might be of ignoring some of the most important questions of our time. So if you want to buy this book, which I highly suggest you do, you can go to the link in the description and you can buy the book off Amazon. I'm also going to put a link for the Book Depository where you can get free shipping worldwide. So link in the description. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. If you're an avid Instagrammer, make sure to follow us at Know Your Books. Thanks for watching. And if you're here, you should probably know your books.